Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, April 22. It is time to finally end the misery of greyhound racing, says Christine Dorchak. The life of racing greyhounds is one of abject misery. Bred to race, they are exploited for their speed and then cruelly cast aside when no longer profitable. These gentle, loving dogs deserve so much better. They deserve to live the same life as the majority of other dogs, which are cared for and loved as family friends. If greyhounds were poodles, would such treatment ever have been tolerated? An American invention, United States tracks were first approved by desperate local governments looking for new forms of revenue during the Great Depression. Now, more than 100 years later, this antiquated activity continues in multiple countries, despite the financial losses it brings and the documented harm it visits on innocent hounds. Thankfully, greyhounds may soon get their second chance in Scotland. This week, following years of public outcry, a bill will be published to outlaw dog racing. Parliamentarians have before them the historic opportunity to make Scotland the first nation in the UK to say no more to the confinement, injury and death, drugging and overbreeding endemic to the greyhound gambling industry. Not only can Scotland open a new era in the UK, but it can also follow the lead of New Zealand, which has just announced the same policy. Outside of the UK, there will remain just 3 countries where commercial dog racing takes place: Australia with 64 tracks, Ireland with 15, and the United States with just 2 struggling tracks in operation. Even Vietnam and Mexico closed their last racing stadiums in 2023 and 2024, and most recently the Welsh Government announced it would prohibit dog racing as soon as practically possible, perhaps even before the Senedd elections next May. The trend is truly with the greyhounds. Grey 2K USA Worldwide is the largest greyhound protection organisation in the world. We work nationally and internationally to pass stronger greyhound protection laws and end the cruelty of dog racing. We also promote the rescue and the adoption of greyhounds across the globe. In our 24-year history, we have helped close down more than 50 tracks across the United States and prevented the legislation of greyhound gambling to countries such as South Africa, Jamaica, and the Philippines. In 2018, we formed an international coalition to close the infamous Canidrome in China. Will Scotland be next? There is one last track in Scotland, and a recent analysis by Bigger Economics shows that repurposing Thornton Stadium for housing would be of great benefit to the community. In fact, using the site in Thornton for housing could add capital stock to the tune of £5.9 million in capital asset value in Fife. But without legislation, this track is free to continue hosting dangerous dog races, contributing next to nothing to the local economy. Worse, other tracks may spring up. It's time to stand up for the greyhounds and put an end to this disreputable pastime. We are excited to be part of the fight here in Scotland to end the suffering of dogs. We urge policymakers to read the mood music around the dying industry and help Scottish hounds cross the happy finish line to freedom, says Christine Dorchak. Evening Times Sport, April 22. Call for exploitative Scottish youth football rules investigation. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Anas Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader, has written to Sarah Cardell, the Chief Executive of the Competition and Markets Authority, CMA, urging her to investigate exploitative practices in youth football in this country. The Children and Young People's Commissioner Scotland and youth organisation Real Grassroots launched complaints about the Scottish Football Association and Scottish Professional Football League with the CMA back in December in what was the latest development in a long-running campaign. Their legal representatives, Gunnar Cook, alleged that 4 of the governing body's rules, the no poach, no approach, unilateral extension and development contribution rules, breached United Kingdom competition law. The CMA, who announced that they would be cutting their staff members by almost 100 in January due to a budgetary overspend last year, have since informed the complainants they will not be launching a formal investigation. Gunnar Cook competition law partner Alex Waxman said, "The CMA has expressed concerns about the resources that would be involved in investigating the case in the immediate future, given the other matters that the CMA has open. We have responded with an explanation of why this case should be prioritised and why we do not believe this would be an unduly resource-heavy matter. We remain optimistic about this case being taken on." Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader and MSP for Glasgow region, has also contacted CMA Chief Executive Cardell and urged her to review the case after holding talks with Willie Smith, the Hillwood Boys Club founder, who set up Real Grassroots due to concerns about the state of youth football in Scotland, and Gunnar Cook. He wrote, "I recently met with the founder of Real Grassroots, Willie Smith, and his legal representatives, Gunnar Cook, to discuss their complaint to the Competition and Markets Authority, CMA, against the Scottish Football Association and the Scottish Professional Football League. The Real Grassroots complaint relates to exploitative practices in youth football in Scotland, which they and their legal representatives consider to be clear breaches of UK competition law. The CMA has recently responded that they will not be taking this complaint forward at this time due to administrative priorities. Real Grassroots are disappointed as the CMA has not disputed that the SFA and SPFL have breached the UK Competition Act and appear to have fundamentally misunderstood important aspects of their complaint. I would be grateful if the CMA's decision to not proceed with the Real Grassroots complaint can now be reconsidered, with a view to this matter being fully investigated and bringing about an end to exploitative practices in youth football in Scotland. The Public Petitions Committee at Holyrood recommended very strongly that multi-year registrations for children under the age of 16 should be abolished back in 2020. But young players aged 15 to 17 who are at an elite club academy Scotland, CAS, C-A-S, club, still sign a 2-year registration can only be terminated if both they and the club agree to it. The 11 elite CAS clubs are Aberdeen, Celtic, Dundee United, Hamilton, Hearts, Hibs, Kilmarnock, Motherwell, Rangers, Queen's Park and St Mirren. Clubs insist the rules prevent large academies from raiding smaller academies and taking away players they have spent time and money developing over a number of years, and also gives kids long-term stability. But the Children and Young People's Commission of Scotland and Real Grassroots are adamant these rules amount to economic exploitation of children and mean that clubs can hold youth players hostage. An SFA spokesperson said, "We have been in dialogue with the CMA and will continue to monitor our policies and procedures in line with FIFA regulations." Speaking back in December when the complaints were lodged with the CMA, an SFA spokesperson said, "We were pleased that the report published in 2020 by the Public Petitions Committee acknowledged the significant progress made to protect children and young people involved in our game. Since the publication of the report, we have continued to evolve our policies and procedures in line with the FIFA statutes. Indeed, we have successfully amended the process of reimbursement of training costs based on input from the Children's Commissioner, ensuring training compensation is only due when the players sign their first professional contract." The SPFL were approached for comment. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, April 22. Arden Engels, Loving Life at Celtic. Report by Graham McGarry. Given that they play in a vaguely similar area of the park, are both vying for a place in the same national side, but play their club football on different sides of the Glasgow divide, it is only natural, if more than a little contrived, that something of a rivalry has been confected between Celtic's Arden Engels and his compatriot at Rangers, Nicholas Raskin. Comparisons between the pair were heightened when Raskin outshone Engels in the most recent Old Firm derby and earned a place in the Red Devils squad at the expense of Celtic's record signing, before impressing on his international debut under their new manager Rudy Garcia. If there is one thing that Engels has learned in his debut season in Scotland, it is that blocking out conjecture about his performances is a handy survival tool. Whether it is the debate around whether he has justified his hefty price tag, or arguments around who has the better Belgian patrolling their midfield, Engels has kept his focus on improving as an individual and bringing his best to training and matches with Celtic. If he does that, the 21-year-old is happy to let the caps fall where they may, particularly when the honours are falling the way of both him and Celtic. Said Engels, "It's not really a rivalry, just what you're making out of it. My big aim here is now just to win the treble, and that's the only thing in my mind. If that comes, I'm performing well and doing well. It's not up to me to do the selection. I'm just working hard and doing my best. then we will see. There is a narrative around Engels that the Celtic support in the main want to see a little bit more from him. But with 10 goals and 12 assists so far in his debut season, an argument could be made that the 21-year-old has found his feet just fine, even if he may have a bit to do to convince some that he was worth the outlay it took to prize him away from Augsburg. Again, though, the question of whether his contribution so far represents value for money is not one that is causing him to lose too much sleep. "I don't care," he said. "I'm just here to perform and to get better. I'm still young. I still need to learn. I think I have good numbers and good performances. It's not about me, it's about the team. I want to be here to help the team and win trophies. I think I'm in a good place. I'm doing well here. We are still in the place to get the 3 trophies. That was a big aim for me. I love the pressure. It's why you play football, to win trophies. And of course, Celtic is a massive club. Everybody has something to say. And of course I'm not reading it, but sometimes you're hearing it from my parents telling me they are saying this or that. But it is up to me to just perform and enjoy my game and enjoy life a bit. It is also an important thing to enjoy your life and also playing. I love it here. I love being in Glasgow. It's been an enjoyable season and hopefully we end it well. I love it. The passion is amazing here. Everyone is so passionate and so involved. If you walk into the city, they are either shouting your name or doing something. It's really nice to feel that passion, not only in the stadium, but outside the stadium. My parents love it here. I'm in a good place. Part of Engels' adaptation to life at Celtic has been meeting the varying challenges that playing for the club throws up, from competing against the best teams in the world in the Champions League arena, to overcoming low blocks in less glamorous surroundings, often on difficult pitches. Both he and his team, though, have so far navigated those challenges effectively, with an impressive campaign in Europe's elite competition, and what looks like an almost certain clean sweep of domestic honours set to be completed in the coming weeks. And he admitted that would be amazing. That was a goal at the beginning of the season. It is every time a goal for Celtic to win trophies. We still have a lot of games we need to play. We are in a good place in the league and in the Scottish Cup final, which is a step closer to our goal. It's all about the mindset. You have Champions League games at Celtic Park. You are overwhelmed a bit, and then you come in at the next week and you're playing a team away that is maybe a less bigger stadium than you're used to. But that's all about getting the mindset to play games really well and to perform like last Sunday in the first half especially. You kill them, you put in a lot of energy, and then everything goes really well. It is something that I have learned this year, and that was also a thing I wanted to experience, being the better team, and that I also needed to make the game a bit and create a lot. I think I'm doing well, and the team are doing well. Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, April 22. Rare Rangers collector's item set to go for auction. Report by Ewan Payton. A special jersey from one of Rangers' most famous achievements is up for auction next month, and it is set to go at an eye-watering price. Graham Budd Auctions have released some of the Scottish football memorabilia that will be available at their next auction on Wednesday, May 21. Among several kits with items from Rangers, Celtic, Scotland and Dundee included, is a rare Tommy McLean match-worn shirt from the 1972 European Cup Winners' Cup final. Rangers famously lifted the European trophy after victory against Dynamo Moscow. Now fans of the Ibrox club will have the chance to bid for his jersey from that day. However, whoever the successful bidder is will need to stump up some serious cash for the highly sought-after item. The number 7 jersey is estimated to go for between £15,000 and £20,000. The description of the kit on Graham Budd's website reads, Tommy McLean Rare Blue Number 7 Rangers vs Dynamo Moscow Match Worn European Cup Winners' Cup Final Long Sleeve Shirt 1972 Umbro M with crew neck collar and embroidered badge inscribed European Cup Winners' Cup Final 1972. The above shirt was worn by Tommy McLean in the 1972 Cup Winners' Cup against Dynamo Moscow. Rangers finally recorded their first European Cup Winners' final win in 1972 after 2 final defeats in 1961 and 1967. In the run to the final, Rangers saw off Rennes, Sporting Club, Torino and Bayern Munich, and in the final played on 24th May 1972 at the Nou Camp before 35,000 spectators. Rangers defeated Dynamo Moscow 3-2 with goals from Willie Johnston and Colin Steen, and the newly christened Barker Bears wrote their names into the annals of Rangers Football Club history. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, April 23. Celtic supposedly eyeing Stoke player. Report by Martin Macmillan. Sky Sports pundit David Prutton believes a move to Celtic would be tremendous for Stoke City's Million Manhouth. Brendan Rodgers is reportedly eyeing the winger as a potential squad signing ahead of the summer window. Manhouth has been a key figure for Stoke City this season, making 37 appearances and contributing to 12 goals. The 23-year-old joined the Potters from Vitesse just over a year ago. Despite his efforts, Stoke City find themselves in 17th place in the Championship. A move to Celtic could offer him a change. David Prutton commented on the possible transfer, saying, I think, firstly, you can instantly see the attraction of what being a Celtic player would be. Never having had the privilege of being north of the border playing, but knowing people that played for both sides of that particular divide, their description and their passion for it is all-consuming. So I think swapping a club that's perennially bottom half in the Championship, which again, from Stoke's point of view, needs to be addressed as soon as possible. A glaring gulf between a team in Leeds heading back to the Premier League and a team in Stoke that were once part in the Premier League furniture was there for all to see on Monday. Evening Times Sport, April 23. Cricket Scotland resolve unfair treatment allegations. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Cricket Scotland and former international bowler Hamza Tahir have reached an amicable claim that followed his retirement from international cricket in June 2024. The 29-year-old, who earned 49 caps for Scotland, announced his decision to retire after accusing the sport's governing body of racial discrimination and unfair treatment. Speaking at a press conference, Tahir revealed that his international career had been hindered by what he described as prejudice, claiming that he had to work twice as hard as others to be given equal opportunities. The dispute came to a head after Cricket Scotland chose not to renew Tahir's contract earlier in the year. The bowler subsequently lodged a grievance threatening legal action for unfair dismissal. At the time, Cricket Scotland expressed regret over the situation and reiterated its apology to anyone who had experienced racism within the sport. The organisation also confirmed that 5 cases were currently undergoing a disciplinary process. In a statement released today, both Cricket Scotland and Tahir confirmed that the matter had been resolved without the need for further legal action. The two parties have agreed to work together in a bid to end player equality and tackle any form of discrimination within Scottish cricket. The full press release read, "In late June 2024, Hamza Tahir retired from international cricket, citing unfair treatment by Cricket Scotland, allegations which were reported following a public media conference. Both parties are pleased to confirm that a claim of unfair dismissal has now been brought to an amicable resolution. In a demonstration of positive action, Cricket Scotland and Hamza Tahir have agreed to work together to show their collective commitment to improve player equality and ensure there is no place for discrimination in Scottish cricket. There will be no further comment made by either party on this matter." Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, April 23. Thelwell on Rangers shortlist. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Rangers are keeping tabs on Kevin Thelwell as the Everton Director of Football prepares to leave Goodison Park this summer, according to a report. The Daily Mail claims Thelwell has emerged as a serious contender for the sporting director vacancy at Ibrox, with the Scottish Premiership club reshaping its football operations ahead of a pivotal summer rebuild both on and off the pitch. The 51-year-old is expected to part ways with Everton at the end of the campaign after over 3 years in the role. A seasoned operator, Thelwell boasts an impressive CV, having played a key role in Wolves' recruitment during their rise to the Premier League, and later holding the head of sport position at Major League Soccer side New York Red Bulls, before returning to England in February 2022. Rangers, currently under the interim stewardship of Barry Ferguson, following Philippe Clement's departure in February, are looking to strengthen the club's football structure as they prepare for a new permanent manager and a crucial squad overhaul. Speaking as the club launched its search for a new sporting director, CEO Patrick Stewart underlined the importance of the appointment and the calibre of individual Rangers are targeting. He said, "We are now in the market for a sporting director. That role will put someone right at the top of the football tree, an experienced football person who will be responsible for all aspects of the football club to ensure they are working together towards fulfilling our holistic, joined-up plan." While Ferguson continues to steady the ship in the short term, Rangers are moving behind the scenes to ensure the right structures are in place for the next chapter. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, April 24. Golf. McIlroy humbled by presidents reaching out after Grand Slam triumph. Rory McIlroy is humbled that his tale of perseverance in completing the career Grand Slam has touched people from all walks of life, including 2 United States presidents. McIlroy fulfilled his lifelong ambition of winning all 4 majors when he was crowned Masters champion by beating Justin Rose in a dramatic playoff earlier this month. The world number 2 from Northern Ireland ended his 11-year wait for an achievement that has been managed by only 5 other players, resulting in an outpouring of appreciation. McIlroy at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans said, "It has been an amazing few days, reflecting on everything that happened and the magnitude of it. The big thing for me is just how the whole journey resonated with people and the people that have reached out to me. That's been absolutely amazing. It's very much been from beyond golf. I spoke to 2 presidents the day after, which was pretty cool. Just people reaching out from all walks of life, whether it be sports, entertainment, culture, all of it. People who you would never even think would watch golf or would know what's going on. That was very, very humbling. I think people can see themselves in the struggle at times and in everything that you try to put into getting the best out of yourself in that journey. I think people watching someone finally get it done, something they've been trying to do for a decade plus, I think that resonated with a lot of people. McIlroy's first outing since winning the Masters is his defence of the Zurich Classic of New Orleans title alongside Shane Lowry, which begins today. The 35-year-old is over the worst of a bug that has limited his ability to practice, but is now ready to tackle the team event. As you can hear, I've picked up a bit of a cold on the way, so feeling a little bit under the weather, he said. Evening Times Sport, April 24. Hamilton lodge appeal against 15-point deduction. Report by Stephen McGowan. Hamilton have lodged their appeal against a 15-point deduction imposed by the SPFL, and an SFA judicial panel could pass final judgment on the matter before the conclusion of the championship season next Friday night. Charged with multiple breaches of league rules, the Lanarkshire club were docked 15 points and fined £9,000 by an SPFL disciplinary tribunal after they were found guilty of late payments of players, failing to act in good faith when dealing with the SPFL over the removal of a transfer embargo, incorrect information regarding stadium ownership, and the loss of their bronze club licence. Now 8 points adrift of Airdrie, with 2 games left to play, relegation is certain unless the punishment is overturned. Protocol states that the judicial panel members will assess Hamilton's submission to ensure that it meets the grounds for an appeal. Should it meet this criteria, a hearing date will be confirmed by the governing body in the coming days, and efforts will be made to convene a hearing before the conclusion of the championship season next Friday, when Hamilton finished the season with a visit to Falkirk. Lingering uncertainty over Hamilton's fate poses issues for the likes of Dunfermline, Queen's Park and Airdrie. While the teams around Accies are safe if the SPFL punishment stands, a successful appeal would raise awkward questions over the timing of the punishment and the impact it might have had on performances. Tempers boiled over at New Douglas Park last weekend when a Hamilton director was the subject of an alleged assault with a bottle at half-time of last weekend's goalless draw with Queen's Park. A senior steward also required treatment for a facial injury, as Chairman Jock Brown and former Labour Defence Minister George Robertson left before the final whistle. Report by Stephen McGowan. Evening Times Sport, April 24. Jota drinks from wisdom of Celtic's James Forrest. Report by Graham McGarry. James Forrest, as a Celtic servant of over 15 years now, would have every right to feel a little irked that he does not have a specific song that the fans sing in his honour, while fellow winger Jota had one when he was barely in the door. Not only that, it was then recorded by a professional artist and became something of a smash hit. Envy is not really in Forrest's make-up though. Besides, his own personal hit parade at Celtic is more than enough to comfort him. It has been well documented that the 33-year-old will become the club's most decorated player when Celtic clinched the league title, moving ahead of Bobby Lennox on 26 major honours. Forrest himself does not like to shout about the achievement too much, but Jota is more than happy to sing the praises of a man who is still making it difficult for young bucks like himself to get into Brendan Rodgers' starting 11, even at this advanced stage of his career. Jota said, "Come on, he's not that old. 33 is the new 22. Don't do him like that." But yes, credit to him. James has had an unbelievable career, and we're just all grateful to him on the pitch and on the team. His medal collection speaks for itself. I think there's not one single person in the locker room that doesn't love James as a person and a football player. So we just try to drink from his wisdom and to learn from him and just be a part of his journey. That journey has taken Forrest from the scrawny teen who bagged a debut goal off the bench against Motherwell way back in 2010 to becoming one of the main leaders in the Celtic dressing room. And in his second spell at the club, Jota is trying to follow his example and said, "I think there's a lot of good personalities in the club, and everyone tries to transmit to us what the values of Celtic are. And yes, James was no different from that. You can learn a lot from him, and I'm just grateful that I'm doing this with him. I think being here for the first time and having lived what I lived, it was really good. And I think the core group was still here when I came back. I still try to learn from them, but whoever comes new, I just try to help them and just perform with them, because in the end it's all about being together and giving the best for Celtic." There is a widespread view that Jota, while still contributing to the team, is not quite yet at his scintillating best since returning to Glasgow in January, as he works his way back to full match fitness. He is edging even closer though, he says, with his goal off the bench against St Johnstone in Sunday's Scottish Cup semi-final rout at Hampden, his fifth in just 15 appearances. And he continued, "I always think that you should always give the best, and whatever needs to happen will happen naturally, so there's no pressure on that. There's the responsibility of being better every day, and that's where my aim is. I'm feeling very good. I think I needed time to develop my physical ability, because it was a long time without playing, but now I'm feeling very good and ready to go stronger. I think it was a good performance from the team on Sunday, and when I got my opportunity I was there in the right spot, and credit to Alistair Johnson because he did an unbelievable job. There's no point to prove here, I'm just enjoying the game, being happy on the pitch. Every day is a new opportunity to be better and to be happier, so that's what I'm doing." Jota was one of the poster boys of the Ange Postecoglou era at Celtic, but he is also loving life under his new manager Brendan Rodgers and thinks that he is a good fit for the system and style that he has implemented since his own return to the club. And he continued, "I'm really enjoying it. I think he brings a good philosophy to the team. I think the structure of Celtic is very well made, so then it's just a matter of details, and I think he has done a very good job on putting the team together, developing his ideas, and we are having a good time." That is rather understating their current position, with Celtic about to wrap up another league title and potentially another treble over the coming weeks. Taking another leaf from teammate Forrest's book, though, Jota prefers not to speak too much about his medals, particularly when they are not yet draped safely around his neck. Besides, when asked if it was the chance to win such honours that convinced him to come back to Celtic, he stressed that there was so much more to it. And he said, "I wouldn't say so. I think that obviously helps, but every little moment is important for me, and I'm just grateful for living this at the moment. Obviously, then this is the cherry on top of the cake, but the job is not done yet." Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, April 24. Scott McTominay is Napoli's key man. Report by Mark Walker. Polish legend and UEFA Vice President Zbigniew Boniek has tipped Scotland star Scott McTominay as the key man who will help his former player Antonio Conte win Serie A with Napoli. McTominay has been widely praised for his performances this season with the Naples Giants, who are in an intense fight for the title with Inter Milan, with the clubs locked together in points at the top of the league. The former Manchester United player equalled a 64-year record this week with his 10th goal of the season to go level on goals with Denis Law as the highest-scoring Scot in Italian football history. And former Juventus and Roma icon Boniek, who was manager of Poland, Polish FA president, and is now vice president at UEFA, has praised McTominay's impact. He said, "Scott McTominay has been very good in this section of the league, and together with Antonio Conte, he is the main reason Napoli are challenging. He has impressed me. Napoli only have Serie A to focus on, but Inter also have the Champions League, which they care a lot about. I have nothing against Inter, but I support Antonio Conte because I coached him when he was a young player at the start of his career when I was manager of Lecce." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, April 24. Nick Roger says, Nelly Korda set for Chevron defence in opening women's major. According to those number-crunching boffins, there are 915,183,765 different ways to combine 6 standard bricks of Lego. Funnily enough, that's about the same number of varying thoughts some golfers have when they are fiddling and tinkering with their swing. The golfing mind can be as cluttered as the bedroom of a young-un who's just emptied a vast bucket of Lego onto the floor. For Nelly Korda, however, these little interlocking plastic blocks are playing a key part in her efforts to clear her head of all things golf-related. Said the women's world number 1, "When you're at tournaments, you can go home and read a book, or you can go and watch your favourite show. But when you're not really interested in any of those two things, Lego is just another way to get your mind off golf. I love it. Corda will be hoping her game clicks like a nice fitting clump of said Lego in Texas this week as she defends her Chevron Championship title in the first women's major of the new campaign. This time last year, Corda arrived at the club at Carlton Woods in such a hot streak of form she just about singed the entry gates on her way in. Her victory in the Chevron Championship, the second major crown of her career, was the 26-year-old's fifth win in a row on the LPGA Tour and part of a rousing run which saw her record 6 victories in 7 starts. But last year is last year, she said of a game that does not allow you to rest on your laurels. Corda knows all about that. After winning her 6th event of 2024, she missed her next 3 cuts. What I achieved last year, no one can take that from me, added the Olympic gold medal winner. That's always going to be such a great memory. But this is a fresh week and a fresh mindset. The golf course could be playing differently. It's a different field, so I have to put all that from last year aside. I'm not going to look too far ahead, and I'm definitely not going to reminisce about the past, because the past is the past. Where I've been lacking this year has been in the putts that I was making last year, and just not making as many this year. But that's just golf. I've gone through waves like this before, and I just continue working at it. Hopefully it does click. Major Championship Week got off to a tasty start with Corda hosting the traditional Champions Dinner with a menu that included Regis over hybrid caviar, Big Eye tuna tartare, and herb roasted fillet of American Wagyu beef. It sounds just like the nosh you get in the Herald and Evening Times canteen. After each course was dished up and subsequently wolfed down, the host got a round of applause from her fellow champions. Yes, I was in the back making this all day, she said with a chuckle. Corda, who is seeking a first win of 2025, is hoping to serve up some more fine fare on the course in a showpiece occasion that boasts a purse of almost $8 million and also features Scotland's lone representative, Gemma Dryborough. Corda's win in this event a year ago was certainly earned the hard way. She had to play 25 holes on a marathon final day after bad weather had disrupted the third round proceedings. Here in 2025, Corda is embracing the expectation that comes with being the defending champion. Pressure is a privilege, she added, of her lofty status. I try to soak it up and try to enjoy every single moment of it. That pressure just means that all the hard work I've put in has paid off. For years, this women's major was based at Mission Hills in California. The winner there would take a leap of triumph into Poppy's Pond, which surrounded the 18th green. Since a rebrand and relocation of the tournament, that tradition has remained at the new venue in Texas. The water at the Nicholas course, however, is not quite as inviting for a winning dip. I was last one in, first one out, said Corda of her plunge last year. Once my feet hit the ground, I was like, oh my God, this is so slimy, I'm getting right out. It's definitely not as clear as it was back in Palm Springs, but traditions have to live on, and I would do it again, 100%. Report by Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, April 24. Rangers confirm new shirt brand. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Rangers have confirmed that they will wear Umbro kits from next season. Chief Executive Patrick Stewart announced the switch during a fans forum at Edmiston House last night, which will see Umbro return to Ibrox as the club's official kit supplier for the 25-26 campaign, a move that marks a fresh chapter in Rangers' commercial strategy. The Ibrox outfit first partnered with current suppliers Castor ahead of the 2021 season in what was a headline-grabbing deal for both parties. At the time, it was Castor's first major move into top-flight football, using Rangers as a springboard into the elite sportswear market. Though the partnership delivered financially and saw the club's merchandise offering grow globally, it has not been without issues. Fans voiced concerns over kit quality and limited stock availability, particularly in the earlier years of the deal. The move coincides with Castor announcing it has secured the exclusive Pro Team Sports license for Umbro in the UK, Ireland and key international territories. That agreement allows Castors to manufacture and distribute Umbro's elite performance kits, meaning the new Rangers deal will remain within the Castor network, but under the iconic double diamond branding. Umbro previously kitted out Rangers during some of the club's most memorable eras, including their UEFA Cup final run in 2008 and multiple Scottish Premiership title-winning seasons before the club's financial collapse in 2012. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, April 24. Rangers consider second Dundee free transfer swoop. Report by David Irvin. Rangers are interested in a free transfer swoop for Dundee's Josh Mulligan. The Ibrox side are monitoring the 22-year-old who is out of contract at Dens Park in the summer. It is thought Mulligan is also attracting interest from a host of English Championship clubs. Mulligan, who earned 10 caps at under-21 level for Scotland, is free to discuss a pre-contract move away from Dundee. Rangers are thought to be interested in a free transfer swoop for the midfielder, who can also play at right back. Lyle Cameron has already agreed a move to Rangers from Dundee for the summer, with the potential for Mulligan to follow suit. Rangers agreed a pre-contract with Cameron, with the midfielder playing out the remainder of the season at Dens Park before making the switch to Ibrox in the summer. Mulligan has been identified as fitting the profile of signings to improve the physicality of the Rangers squad in certain areas. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, April 25. Celtic supporters group hit out at club's claims over Glasgow derby talks. Report by Martin McMillan. A Celtic fan group has denied the club's claims of discussions regarding the Glasgow derby in March. The North Curve said no talks took place about the controversial events, where hundreds of fans were denied access to the game at Celtic Park. Yesterday, Celtic stated they had been engaging in discussions with Celtic supporters associations, clubs and groups, and Police Scotland. The North Curve, however, contradicted this, saying, in relation to Celtic's statement regarding the policing operation on Sunday, March 16, we would like to clarify that there has been no discussion with Celtic supporters associations, clubs and groups, contrary to their claim, and despite multiple requests for the club to do so. An independent review is being conducted by Fairhurst Safety and Event Consultants, with the club urging those involved in the events to report their experience. Evening Times Sport, April 25. David Martindale up for Celtic and Rangers sacrifice in reconstruction. Report by Stephen McGowan. Print out the document, and it runs to 6 pages of A4 paper. The front page trumpets opportunity and progression as the key drivers for change. The pros and cons of a 16-team SPFL Premiership are then laid here in fine detail. This is not, as you might expect, a slide prepared by the SPFL's Competitions Working Group ahead of Monday's league reconstruction gathering. The 6 pages are the handiwork of David Martindale, a man who expounds the virtues of an expanded league with the passion and zeal of a Methodist preacher. PowerPoints from the Grid Corporation of China contain less detail. The Livingston manager told Herald and Evening Times Sport, "It's been in my head for years. I went to university a while back, and by the time I came out of my pro license, I was used to preparing PowerPoints and presentations. So I thought, let's get what I'm feeling down on paper. I generally do not think you will find a Premiership manager who does not want the league to be increased in size." From Brendan Rodgers to Derek McInnes and Tony Docherty, they've all had their say now. The SPFL's Competitions Working Group are drawing up options for a restructuring of the league setup ahead of further discussions with clubs next Tuesday. Livingston have been knocking loudly on the door of Hampden's 6th floor, calling for a grown-up conversation. While the 12-team status quo is likely to prevail, persuading clubs to vote 11-1 on anything is devilishly difficult. Martindale leads a group of managers who believe it's time for the league to take another look at things. The PowerPoint has already gone to the SPFL. Identifying the problem of fixture congestion created by the expansion of UEFA competitions is the easy part. There might be more chance of brokering a ceasefire in the Middle East than there is of finding a solution clubs can agree on. The notion of a return to 10 teams provoked a fan revolt. While 14 has some support, it is problematic. Like supporters tired of watching their teams face off 4 times a season, more if they meet in the cups, the Livingston manager favours a return to the structure in place before 1975, and he said, "There is not another manager in Scotland who has coached in the Championship, League One and the Premiership recently who is still in employment, so I know about this stuff. And I've not heard one manager say they do not want to increase the size of the league. The issue for first-team managers is that they don't get a say. The decision falls to the chairman and chief executives paid good money to pay more attention to the pounds and pennies in the bank than they do to the greater good." Martindale adds, "Managers might not get the final say, but we should. For me, the fundamentals here are players, staff and supporters. Those are the key constituencies you need to consult. Surely managers are what you would class as educated experts. So if managers are coming out and saying, 'I think we should do this,' then surely someone has to listen." Livingston will miss out on automatic promotion if, as expected, Falkirk overcome last week's wobble against Wraith Rovers to secure the title. While the West Lothian side can still secure top-flight football via the promotion playoffs, everything would be cleaner and easier if Scotland's senior clubs voted to expand the Premiership from 12 to 14 or ideally 16 clubs. SPFL Chief Executive Neil Doncaster is on record saying that 16 would halve the value of any future rights deal by halving the number of Old Firm games. Despite being the preferred, fashionable option for board fans then, 16 teams appears to stand less chance of being voted through than 10. Martindale admits, "That's my worry. I think it's easy to jump on a bandwagon and say, 14 teams, let's do that. If you actually stop and think, why? Why 14 teams? I don't think these people could actually give you a proper rationale behind their thinking." Arranging to discuss the matter over WhatsApp, Martindale makes it clear that he is approaching the subject from the standpoint of a Scottish football fan rather than an interested party. That's what they all say. But he said, "If I look at it selfishly, then yes, Livingston stand to lose income. In a normal Premiership season, we had 3 games against Celtic or Rangers. But Livy are willing to lose that 1 game if it means a bigger league and gave us more variety in terms of not playing each other 4 times a season. Let's say, for example, that Dundee gives Celtic 2,000 tickets. I would make the argument that if you have Falkirk or Dunfermline coming up, they would sell those 2,000 tickets as well. So you might not have the Old Firm 3 times, but you gain from a Falkirk, a Dunfermline or a Partick Thistle. We have to try something. Playing each other 3 or 4 times a season is horrendous. It's terrible. I have played Dunfermline 6 times this year. It just does not help the product on the park. The probability of the smaller teams being relegated in a 12-team league is so high that the game becomes risk-averse. It matters little whether Livingston return to the SPFL Premiership via league expansion or the promotion playoffs. However they do it, the ticket will cost them. From 2026, top-flight clubs in Scotland want to phase out the use of artificial surfaces. Talks between the SFA and a group of 7 clubs keen to challenge the move have yet to bring resolution after the top 12 decided against sharing out the solidarity money paid out by UEFA. As things stand, Falkirk and Livingston could go up and face a £2 million bill to replace their artificial surfaces inside 2 years. And an indignant Martindale adds, "So many of the opinions you hear on AstroTurf are uneducated. People jump on the bandwagon. I could name right now 4 or 5 grass surfaces that are not fit for purpose. Because the resources and the climate are not there in Scottish football to maintain exceptionally good grass parks. Our winters have grown colder or more harsh with more rain, and it is extremely hard for clubs which do not have huge fan bases to throw money at a grass park. I hope they find a compromise to help clubs like us, but what will be, will be. I think we should be investing our time and our effort into getting the best artificial surfaces we can get. That's a win-win for everybody. I know that teams like Celtic and Rangers do not like coming to our park, but did Celtic not have a hard time on St Johnstone's grass pitch the other week? To me, there's not much difference. I watched Bodo Glimt playing the other week in the Europa League, and it's funny, but I don't remember reading about Lazio players and staff coming out and moaning about the plastic park. Report by Stephen McGowan. Evening Times Sport, April 25. Scott Tominey linked with Real Madrid. Report by Ewan Payton. Scott Tominey is the kind of player who could make the grade at Real Madrid, And that is the opinion of former Napoli midfielder Carmine Gautieri. The Scotland international joined the Serie A club last summer after spending 7 years of his senior career at Manchester United. The 28-year-old has not looked back and has gone from strength to strength as he continues to fire Napoli towards the title. They are embroiled in a fight for the crown with Inter, with both sides locked on 71 points. Antonio Conte's side paid around £35 million for McTominay, who was also joined in Naples by international teammate Billy Gilmour. Gautieri, who played for Napoli in 2005, reckons McTominay could turn out for the likes of 15-time Champions League winners Real Madrid, or even, if a controversial suggestion, Manchester City. He told Radio Carpi, "He is an excellent purchase. We are talking about a complete pair. He has pace, he fits in well, he knows how to shoot, and he also scores with his head. I must admit that I did not expect it, so congratulations to whoever brought him to the Azzurri. A profile like that could easily play in teams of the calibre of Real Madrid or Manchester City. He is among the strongest midfielders in Europe." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times, April 25. Rangers hit by injury. Report by Ewan Payton. Barry Ferguson has provided an injury update on his Rangers squad ahead of tomorrow's trip to Paisley. Rangers make the short journey to face St Mirren as the Scottish Premiership post-split fixtures get underway. The Ibrox club does not have anything to play for other than pride, with second place wrapped up and Celtic on the cusp of winning the title. However, Ferguson wants to make the most of his time in charge of the club and will look to field his strongest possible team to keep racking up as many victories as he can. Leon Balogun and Ridvan Yilmaz were among the players to hobble off injured during last week's Europa League defeat to Athletic Bilbao, and both players will be unavailable for tomorrow afternoon's game, with Yilmaz's season over. Balogun could yet return to play some part in the final 4 matches after undergoing surgery on a fractured cheekbone. Report by Ewan Payton.
From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 26th of April 2025, from the sports section. People don't fear Rangers. Ferguson fumes after St Mirren draw. Article written by Martin McMillan. Barry Ferguson admitted teams no longer fear Rangers after they were held to a 2-2 draw away to St Mirren. Rangers twice held the lead through goals from Cyril Dessers and Nicholas Raskin, only to be pegged back each time by Mark O'Hara and Conor McMenamin. It was a third successive match in which Rangers had failed to beat St Mirren, and Ferguson felt that the Ibrox side were no longer viewed as an imposing threat. The interim head coach said, "The issue I've got is people don't fear playing Rangers now. Whether that's at home or away, they enjoy coming to Ibrox. And then, when you go away from home, teams look to see if they can bully you, run hard at you and get in about you. That's something that, again, needs to change going forward. You need to build a strong team domestically. I'm sure whoever takes the manager's job will hopefully totally understand that." Ferguson had set his players the target of winning all 5 of their post-split fixtures, and he was frustrated they had failed to collect a victory in their first match. "I never got the 3 points which I had demanded," he added. "You can't come to a place like St Mirren, lead the game twice and give a couple of sloppy goals away. That's exactly what we've done. That's been our Achilles heel, not just since I've come in. That's been the Achilles heel here for a long time. So yeah, overall I'm really disappointed." Buddy's boss Stephen Robinson was also frustrated at not winning the match. "I'm actually disappointed," he said. "I thought we should have won the game. We scored 2 great goals and we should have scored 2 more. They should have scored, but they got the chances and that's what we credit them for. We played really, really well throughout. Overall, I thought we were the better team throughout the game and deserved to win. I think it should have been 9 points out of 9 against Rangers. It shows how far the football club has come, how far this group of players have come. And that article was written by Martin McMillan. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 26th of April, from the sports section, key players that helped Celtic to 4th consecutive Premiership title. Article written by Martin McMillan. Celtic have clinched their 4th consecutive William Hill Premiership title, following a 5-0 win over Dundee United. The triumph is their 13th championship success in 14 years, and a 4th for Brendan Rodgers. Here are 3 key players from their latest success. Daisen Maeda. The Japan attacker has been a revelation in a central role since Kyogo Furuhashi left for Rennes in January, but he had already been enjoying his best season in Glasgow beforehand. The 27-year-old's work rate, pressing and pace has always been a level beyond, but he has added a far more consistent end product to his display. Maeda had already scored 33 goals in all competitions and has netted 18 goals in 16 matches since Furuhashi departed. With 16 league goals, he is well placed to finish the Premiership's top goalscorer, amid competition from Dundee striker Simon Murray and Dundee United's Sam Dalby. Callum McGregor. The captain has made Celtic tick from the base of central midfield in recent seasons, but he has rediscovered the sort of goal-scoring form that he produced from a more advanced role earlier in his career. The 31-year-old has scored 8 league goals and most of them have been spectacular strikes from long range. Nicholas Kuhn. The German winger was a revelation from pre-season onwards after some fitness issues hindered his early impact on his arrival from Rapid Vienna in January 2024. Kuhn's pace, sharpness and skill made him impossible to live with for many defenders in both the Premiership and Champions League, in the first half of the season especially. The 25-year-old has scored 12 league goals and 20 in all competitions, and provided 8 assists in the Premiership, although the goal rate had slowed in recent months before his double at Dundee United on Saturday. And that article was written by Martin McMillan.
Evening Times Sport, April 28. Falkirk boss early front runner to take over at Hearts. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Hearts are already on the hunt for a new head coach following the departure of Neil Critchley, who was sacked after Saturday's 1-0 home defeat to Dundee in the Scottish Premiership. Critchley's exit comes after a season of disappointment for Hearts, who failed to secure a top 6 finish in the Premiership and were also knocked out of the Scottish Cup by Aberdeen. The 46-year-old also received intense criticism for Hearts' failure to turn up in big games. With these setbacks weighing heavily on the club, the decision to part way with Critchley was made. According to Ace Odds, current Falkirk manager John McGlynn is the early favourite to return to Tynecastle with odds of 100-30. McGlynn managed Hearts during the 2012-13 season, having been involved in the coaching setup at the club for a number of years. He is currently attempting to lead the Bairns back into the top flight. Another former Hearts manager, Robbie Neilson, also features high up. He recently left American second-tier side Tampa Bay Rowdies. Former Oxford United boss Des Buckingham is second favourite, priced at 4-1. Interim head coach Liam Fox is also included alongside Derek McInnes, Rob Edwards and Ian Evatt, who had been mentioned when Hearts were looking for a replacement for Stephen Naismith. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, April 28. Labours of Love as Ward continues to dig up forgotten greens. Report by Nick Roger. Seek and you shall find. Harry Ward is probably one of golf's most hardest working historians. If he's not rummaging around here, then he's rooting about there, or delving and digging goodness knows where. Ward's tireless exploratory endeavours are broadly equivalent to the eye-opening excavations that unearthed those terracotta warriors in the mausoleum of the first Qin emperor. In fact, if the well-kent, highly respected Lanarkshire man visited that particular World Heritage Site, he would probably discover evidence of a disused nine-holer that played host to an early dynastic Texas scramble. Ward, of course, is the author of Forgotten Greens, an illuminating, insightful and important resource which documents over 500 abandoned golf courses dotted around every nook and cranny of Scotland. Since that book came out a few years ago, Ward's sleuthing has uncovered 300 more defunct courses. It's a labour of love, and I still get a tingle of excitement when I find these places, said the 75-year-old of this passionate pursuit that began back in the 1990s with his late brother Alfie, and shows no sign of petering out. From cities, towns, villages and islands, to private estates, psychiatric institutions, military establishments, lighthouses, and the most unlikely remote outposts, Ward's book and the newspaper cuttings therein catalogues the proposed plans and subsequent development of these courses before their ultimate demise. Ward has certainly put in the hard yards. Last year, for instance, his explorations took him to Shetland, where, through extensive scourings of the archives of the Shetland Times in Lerwick, he found evidence of a rich and varied golfing scene from Sumburgh right up to Balta Sound and Saxa Vord. Said Ward, who is now based in Ayr, "In all my years researching defunct courses, I have never come across such an unusual one as the Missionary Golf Course. It was formed immediately after World War II and had some 46 members, comprising the less fortunate individuals on the island and several demobilised soldiers who had fallen on hard times. The entire membership was housed in a missionary building just outside Lerwick, and they were responsible for the upkeep of the 9-hole course. Closer to his own gate of Biggar, the former majesty of Crawford still rouses Ward's senses. Near the drone of rumbling traffic on the M74 lies the overgrown relics of one of Scotland's finest inland courses. It was incredible, a jewel in the crown, said Ward, of a course laid out by the mighty old Tom Norris back in 1888. You can still see all the holes, the tees and the greens. Old Tom said they were the finest greens he'd seen. He'd say that about every course he laid out, mind you, but he generally bragged about Crawford. For golf historians, the life, times and legacy of Old Tom never loses its fascinating lustre. Added Ward, I was at the Carnegie Library in Ayr and was given a family album with a few golf pictures in them. A wee while later, I was speaking to the archivist at Prestwick about them, and it sparked something. He came back with about 5 albums by a photographer named J. H. Wilson that were identical to the one I was given in Ayr. We started flicking through them, and here are pictures of old Tom Morris. Now, I was convinced I'd seen every photo there is available of him. But as soon as I looked at those, I was like, bloody hell, do you realise what we have here? They are quite unique and could be worth a fortune. What were we saying about seek and you shall find again? with the kind of enduring energy you used to get with that bunny in the advert for Duracell batteries. Ward will keep on going in his quest to discover more historical gems. There can be more disappointing days than there are good days, he said of those hours spent sifting through various documents, annals, records and chronicles. You can put a 10-hour shift in at a library, staring at a screen all day, and find almost nothing. Other times you stumble on a snippet that nobody else has seen. That's when it's worthwhile, and you get the excitement. I've got about 21,000 files on my computer database, but one room in the house is a fire hazard, with boxes of A4 sheets with printings of newspaper clippings on them. The plan was to type them all into my computer, but I'll eventually run out of steam. Not yet, though. I've taken on a job as a starter at Turnberry, so that will help to pay for my gallivanting, he said, with a sprightly chuckle. Report by Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, April 28. James Forrest touching Bobby Lennox plans. Report by Josh McCafferty. James Forrest will visit Bobby Lennox this week after eclipsing the Lisbon Lions Trophy Hall to become Celtic's outright most decorated player. Lennox won 25 major honours during his stint at Parkhead, although Saturday's Scottish Premiership title triumph took Forrest's tally to 26. It was his 13th league championship victory, in addition to his 7 Scottish Cup wins and 6 Scottish League Cup medals. Forrest will visit Lennox, who, much like the veteran winger, also hails from Ayrshire, in the coming days, and he said, "I've met Bobby Lennox a few times at games and stuff, and I am planning to go and see him this week as well. People say that I have gone beyond him. At this club it is not about one player or two players, it is so many players. It is the fans, the staff you don't see behind the scenes, and all of that as well. There are so many people you can credit. I have met his family and they are all so humble, and I think that stands you in good stead for players coming through." Forrest is still chasing a goal this season to make it 16 in a row in which he has scored for Celtic. With 5 games of the campaign remaining, one wouldn't bet against the 33-year-old doing so. He and his teammates travel to Ibrox this weekend for the final Glasgow derby of the campaign. And manager Brendan Rodgers says, "It's so important to win next weekend. Rangers were very good in the first half when we played them at Celtic Park. We were too slow. The comfort in the game was not good. In the second half we were much better. Celtic versus Rangers, no matter what it is, Rangers versus Celtic, it means everything. So we need to go and perform next week again, but we can get those messages through during the week." Report by Josh McCafferty. Evening Times Sport, April 28. McColgan reflects on a surreal moment of record-breaking in marathon. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Eilish McColgan marked an historic debut in the London Marathon, finishing 8th and breaking the Scottish record with a remarkable time of 2 hours, 24 minutes and 25 seconds. The result makes her the highest placed female British athlete in the race, a feat that left her with mixed emotions of pride and disbelief. Speaking after the race, McColgan admitted to feeling nervous before stepping onto the starting line, noting the marathon distance was a completely unknown territory for her. And she said, "I was very, very nervous. It was probably the most nervous I've ever been for any event, just purely because the distance was a complete unknown. I have never raced further than a half marathon, so the thought of doing it back to back was a little bit scary. However, McColgan's nerves quickly turned into awe as she soaked the support from the London crowd. And she added, praising the atmosphere that propelled her through the grueling 26.2-mile course. The crowd is hard to put into words unless you're out there and you experience it. Like, it is insane. Despite a tough race that saw her battling fatigue earlier than expected, McColgan managed to cross the finishing line with a new personal best and a record-breaking achievement for Scotland. Her time not only shattered her own expectations, but also surpassed her mother, Liz Colgan's, personal best of 2 hours 26 minutes 52 seconds in 1997, cementing a powerful family legacy in marathon running. Reflecting on her achievement, McColgan shared, "If you asked me right after the race, I would have said absolutely not about doing another marathon, but it was just an incredible experience. I knew my first one was always going to be tough, and I always knew I was coming into a little bit perhaps underprepared compared to 2023. But I didn't make the start line in 2023, so that was my main priority. Make it to the start line, make it to the finish. That was the first goal, and I achieved that." Having reached that pivotal milestone, McColgan proudly embraced the title of marathoner for the first time. The Scot had originally hoped to race at the London event in 23 and 24, but injury setbacks delayed her journey to the start line until now, and she said, "I am incredibly proud of it. It got tough out there a little bit earlier than I would have liked, but it was a really good learning experience." One of McColgan's most meaningful moments came with the achievement of breaking her mother's marathon personal best. Liz McColgan, a former world champion, is one of the icons of British athletics, and for Ailish to surpass her mother's mark was a special milestone. And she said, "Every time I run, I feel like I'm doing it for my family and my mum. I wouldn't be here without her. It's just cool. It's obviously a completely different generation from her time. She was using flat coke or whatever to fuel her to the end. I have super shoes, gels, and all sort of stuff going on in my corner, but it's really special and a pretty surreal moment." Report by Robbie Hanratty.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.